ever feel like you're busy all the time, but you still have all these loose ends? Things just keep piling up and you're not really getting anywhere. It's like you're just spinning your wheels. Well, it turns out that is a very common problem. And it's not a coincidence. It's chaotic thinking. Procrastination and clutter just might be calling the shots. So if that sounds familiar, today's episode will be helpful because I am joined by a clinical psychologist, a productivity expert, and procrastination specialist. We get into the mindset behind the busyness, why it actually keeps us stuck, and how perfectionism, along with old habits, begin to sneak in. Plus, we'll share a challenge you can start to calm the chaos and clear the clutter so you can finally stop spinning your wheels. It's coming up next. Stay with me. Welcome to Shift or Get Off the Pot, the podcast that helps you get out of your head and into action so you can make your dreams your reality. Let's get to it. Welcome to this episode. My guest today is a clinical psychologist, a productivity expert, and host of the Make Time for Success podcast, which is aptly named because she specializes in helping people declutter their lives, move past overwhelm, and stop procrastinating. She has been featured in Oprah Magazine for her ability to help people get out of their own way and stop the busy work that leads to nowhere so that they can actually become more productive and make time for success. And she is joining us today to help us understand why we procrastinate and what to do about it, and how to declutter our lives and our minds so that we can just get off that hamster wheel, stop being so busy, and really start showing up for the lives that we want to live. Welcome to the show, Dr. Christine Lee.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on again, Kim. And thanks for that great introduction. You summarized things really beautifully. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? I love having you on because I think the fact that so many of us not only tend to procrastinate, but we just get stuck in busy work. Busy, and I'm doing this. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, oh my gosh, I'm so busy today. And I've da. And yet you kind of look at it and you go, at the end of the day, okay, well, what do you really have to show for it? And why are you always so busy? And so I'd really love to get into that and kind of find out, as a clinical psychologist, if there maybe is one particular personality trait or type of personality that tends to stay busy all the time or stay stuck.
That's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question in about 30 years of focusing on this full time. So thank you for that. My instinctual response is that it might be the anxiety. So the anxious type of person. And that said, we all have anxiety. So we all have this internal natural potential to delay, to get ourselves stuck, to get in our own ways, and to not take the most efficient route through. And so that has always been just a personal obsession because I, for the first half of my life, just derailed every single goal I ever had and made everything way more complicated and was late on everything. So I just became curious about ways that I could improve my own life situation because some life situations happened and I needed to straighten up more quickly than I really hadn't even been trying. And really it was the birth of, I would say, the second child that was a really one of the big triggers because, family is important and family is complicated and you need your best functioning self to be on board, right? If you're really tending to yourself all the time, where are the kids going to fit in? Where are all the chores and the work and everything else? So I just instinctually, I think, knew that something needed to change. So that's a little bit of the backstory too.
Well, okay, that's really interesting because you said the word, you had a tendency to make things more complicated than they needed to be. And I know a lot of people that do that. I mean, I know myself, for years I thrived in chaos, and I was so used to having all that stuff juggling and running around and things, but I felt like, oh, I'm more productive this way because I'm like boom, 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 get it done. There could be a healthy part of that, but maybe not so much. I had to get much more organized and learn how to do that. But I also knew that there were quite a few other people that if there was an easy way and a complicated way or a difficult way, they would tend to do whatever it took to make things far more complicated than they need it to be. So why is that? What's going on that causes us to do that?
I don't know that I have the explanation. For me, it's a little bit imagination, a little bit I don't want to leave people out, a little bit I want to avoid criticism from other people. It may be a little bit personality, but a little bit upbringing too. If you're in a kind of chaotic household, maybe you're going to want to make sure everything's just so. And I feel like the people who really are just good with themselves, they trust themselves, they are go with the flow kind of people, they were probably in situations where they felt safe. They felt my needs are taken care of. I'm safe. I can make mistakes without feeling terrified afterwards, things like that. So we all come from a mix of things. So even if your childhood home was steady and stable and calm and nice, there were other factors in your life that you had to deal with, other incidents that happens, embarrassment that happens. We're all very sensitive to risks and threats to our safety. We're just built like that. And so complication, life is complicated. I think if you don't assume your own power for saying, I get to do this in a simple way, life will make it complicated because you delay, things get complicated. You stress out about something, all of a sudden it's another complication, right? Part of my morning this morning was on the phone with medical insurance billing, right? And talk about complicated and just for no reason that
Oh, yeah.
that I can gather that I needed to really do this, but it's a part of life. We can't really escape those complications. And sometimes because our anxiety is chirping in so loudly, we feel we can't let it go. We can't just release it. We can't let it be. There must be another thing that I can put in there. And so I'm going to add that one piece of this kind of illusion of a lot of control over all circumstances. I think that as individuals, we enjoy a healthy amount of that feeling of being in control. And in reality, we're in control of very, very little. I think, in some ways we're in control of our anxiety largely, thankfully, but we don't realize that. I think I come across a lot of people, a lot of clients who believe the anxiety, it's as if the anxiety is a whole other human being in the equation instead of just a part of you that is kind of your advisor and kind of your alert system and kind of your protection. But people are relating to that anxious part of themselves as if it's like, well, I really have to listen to that part of myself. Elizabeth Gilbert has a wonderful quote, and it's essentially, I know anxiety's in the car, but I'm never going to let anxiety be the driver. And I think she herself had a long history of suffering from anxiety. So many people do. And I think part of maturing, becoming an adult, becoming a parent, oftentimes, it really is about having a better relationship with those anxious thoughts, with the anxious twitters in your body. They're going to happen. Again, they never go away. We're never going to just cleave them out of our lives, but we can get really confident with how we conduct ourselves, with our faith that things are going to go well for us. As long as we're involved, things are going to go well. With our trust that we're safe at the most basic level, so that we really don't have to worry about every little thing or every little flutter of the heart. We really don't have to. And I'm lucky to work with a lot of really lucky people, and I'm lucky to be able to do this work and help people see you're so much luckier than you actually realize. And that's part of it. Luck is such a non-clinical word, but it's what we're swimming in every day. It's like, wow, I'm lucky to be on this podcast with you. We're lucky we have internet. Like, I'm lucky that I can think clearly while I'm talking to you, even though this is a situation that might make a person nervous. You know, we're lucky for all sorts of things, but we can be in touch with that only if we give ourselves the emotional, energetic space to think like that. And we're trained by society, by school, by parents, by media, all the horror shows and everything. It's just like, be scared of everything. Be worried about what that other person is talking about you or thinking about you. And it's like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I know you don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And my sense of you is that you're a clear operator, that I could just tell in your eyes, right? That you're, oh, sorry about the dog in the background. So speaking about clarity, that clarity of this kind is such a guard against rampant anxiety and a lot of procrastination. Would you agree? What's your take on this?
Oh, 100%. And for a long time, I didn't have that clarity. I had clarity. I don't know if that's your dog or mine, because mine is literally right
I've
on my
got two.
foot.
My apologies. Go ahead.
That's okay. Claire, I think I derailed my efforts for a long time because I hid behind not being clear. When the truth is, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't believe enough in myself that I could get there, and I wasn't quite sure how to get there. And because I didn't have all those pieces of the puzzle, I kept running around thinking, oh my gosh, if I was just clear, I would know what to do. If somebody just gave me this, the plan. And then I realized, stop. Like, you have to sit down and create your own plan based on where you want to be and then work backwards from that. And it wasn't until I took that time to stop and do that. And so that brings me to a point that you were talking about. And that is, well, 2 points actually. One, having this sense of control. And I think as adults, we all do want that sense of control, because let's face it, so much of our life has been controlled by outside entities, especially when you go to school and you're told what to do, when to do it, time schedule, blah, blah, blah. Go to work, same type of thing. And then it's all of a sudden like, ooh, and I see this so much with entrepreneurs. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the shackles are gone. I can do whatever I want. And then it's all of a sudden you get out of control because you have no idea what to do, because you have so many things coming in at you that you're like, So it's like, okay, how do I get that sense of control at the same time, be clear on where I want to go? And that takes me to your other point that you have brought up several times, anxiety. And I want to explore that a little bit as it relates to overwhelm, derailing our efforts, procrastination, because you're not really talking about anxiety from a big trauma, but you're talking about really that everyday anxiety that we all live with to some level, right?
Yes. I really feel like the powerful urge to share what I've been recognizing in myself over the past, let's say, week and a half. I've had multiple lessons from different coaches, whether they knew they were teaching me about this directly or not, does not matter. It's that I kept getting the same message because of what you're asking. It's kind of this, when you're making progress in business, in your life, in a big goal of yours, and you're doing this kind of steady up leveling of things, that you hit a period of just all of a sudden things don't feel so good. You don't feel right. The worry kind of comes in a flood. And I think I was going through some version of that. Things were not going badly, but I also had this amorphous fear, this amorphous feeling like maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe I'm fooling myself. Those kinds of voices, and then one after the other, these different coaches and some things on social media that, always come at the right time, indicated that the reason you're feeling that like that is because you've never felt the part of you that had that next step that you're planning on taking. And that just, as soon as I figured that out, as soon as that landed, all of that stuff calmed down. It was as if my body just got it, that I'm allowed to move forward. I'm allowed to not know how it feels without tormenting myself and without holding myself back from doing the daily efforts and the dreaming and the moving forward and the doing things that I've never done before. And I think the part of my answer and part of what I've decided to facilitate my own growth and my business growth is to say this needs to be a daily focus of mine, to prepare myself for that next phase, to make sure that I'm comfortable when I get there, to make sure that I'm like already there in my mind. And we do that and then we forget. We do that and then we get busy. We do that and then our old habits of, oh, let's stay safe. Oh, let's stay right where you're at on that nice little plateau that you're at. And I don't want that. I really honestly don't. And so I just felt the past week and a half held really great information for me and my growth, right? It's after 2 decades of doing this personal growth stuff personally. It's just like, let's go, right? We're not stopping here. We're not stopping at this plateau. No way.
Well, it's because it's that unfamiliar territory, right? And so it's, they say, well, with a business group that we're in, it's always like a new level, new devil. And it's going, okay, how am I going to handle this now? Because we aren't prepared for it. We haven't done it. But what I love that you just brought up, though, is that it's a daily activity and connecting to the part of you that is already there. So whether that's through visioning, which I think a lot of it requires that because it helps us to put ourselves in that space and in that energy of that space. But the other thing is that it's having a plan and knowing, okay, and sometimes that plan has to be changed. And a lot of times it's altered because we don't know what what our next step may be until we start taking some action, right? But it's getting that plan in place. And this is where I was spinning for a while with that lack of clarity and then just going, and trying procrastinating because I wasn't executing the plan that I had. And it was mostly out of, I wasn't certain that I could actually get there. And until I stopped and started doing more of the visioning, which it is a daily practice. It really is. As a Christian, I always say I have to be prayed up on a regular basis for me to be able to go out in the world and deal with whatever it is that we're dealing with, right? Because things come at you all the time, and to just be going, okay, how am I going to best be equipped to handle this? But it's the same thing, I think, that in business where I can say, you know what, if I don't sit here and just allow myself that mental space to vision where I'd like to be. Because I think what happens is we get so caught up in a to-do list instead in our mind. And that it's like, okay, I have to take that to the cleaners. I have to get the dog to the vet. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be visioning. And then you're not visioning. And it's like, but you don't get there unless you do it on a regular basis, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because of the to-do list and because it really is a cover for just the everyday safety that we like to have. We definitely like to have everything humming along in our daily home lives and private lives. But we also want these other things that we can't yet really grasp fully. And I love that you just decided there are things I need to do, including the daily getting in touch with myself in prayer to really fulfill this. And I need to get rid of the idea that somehow this is unsafe for me, because your goals are there for a reason. And otherwise you're stuck with the to-do list. I think in comparison, the to-do list pales in comparison to what my goals and dreams are. They're really much more exciting.
I think that we have those goals, those dreams, those desires. I think that they're there because we have the ability to achieve them. I don't think that it's a tease. I don't think that it's like, look, you really want this, but sorry, sucker, you're never going to get there. You're not going to get there if you don't take action on that. And that's where I think what you were talking about earlier, that anxiety comes in, because it's kind of like, look at, I had, to develop a plan of action. Did I want to go out and knock on doors and do sales calls again? No, of course not. But at the same time, it was a shift in energy. And I think the more that I started to lean into where I want it to be, what my next level was, and you start to put yourself there, I think that's what you were talking about, is where the confidence starts to come in. Because when you do that, it's like, I'm already here. So the confidence is already there because you're now acting from a place of, I've already achieved it.
Yes.
So what does it matter?
Yes.
And then you can take that action.
Yes. And when we have a goal, we've already envisioned it. We've already envisioned actually the completion of it. It's wild, but sometimes it's only we can see the existence of this future goal. Nobody else has to believe it, want it, has to cooperate. But it's like you said, it's a message from within us that this is possible. I 100% agree with you.
I think that's the sticky part, though, because I think that because then it's like, we see it, we know it, but you want someone else to buy into it too, because you want that validation that it is possible, right? That
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I believe in you too. It's almost like you want that. But I think that comes back to just really starting to take those action steps. So I'd love to explore what's really going on in the brain when we hold ourselves back. Like when we know that we have to send an email, we know that we have to go knock on doors to get more business. We have to take that action, but we don't. And we pull back and we find something else to do. Whether it's that to-do list, I have all these other things. And, it's like all these excuses. I could come up with 1,000 of them and just say, I couldn't do it today because blah, 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 right? But what's going on in our brains? Why do we do that?
I really explain things via habits. And I think we're all just a large conglomeration of habits. And so if you at one point avoided an email successfully by saying, oh, I have to go grab a drink or fold the laundry first, and then you just never paid attention to the email and you survived, that's a habit loop. It doesn't sound like one the way I said it, but then you pull it off again, and then it becomes an ingrained habit. And your brain likes ingrained habits because they save you time and energy, more energy than the time, because our body has a limited source of energy fuel, and it's the brain's primary responsibility to make sure that you don't die and that you always have energy and more where that came from. So if you decide, oh, I like this habit, and you indicate that by repeating the habit, then the brain registers that, and that habit becomes very readily available to you. That makes it, interestingly, a little bit harder to create a new habit, which is, I got a new email in the inbox. Let me handle that. Let me process that right away, instead of making it be a 5-month thing or a 5-week thing and saving myself the trouble. That's the thing. We can't always listen to what our brain is telling us to do. And that sounds bonkers, but it's the truth. I think that is the real secret, that sometimes we have to listen to our higher self talking to us. Sometimes we have to listen to Aunt Judy talking to us. Sometimes we have to listen to just instinct, which may be a different part of the brain, right? It might be like from your stomach and gut or your body memory. There are all sorts of influences, but that's okay, because we're all energy, and energy impacts energy. It's when we get really rigid that things get tough. That's when we start saying, I can't send out this email unless it's perfect and all the grammar's there, and I've checked with Aunt Judy, and right then you've got stalling, complication. You no longer want to do emails because it's become this untenable project instead of, oh, it's just email. For me, email is very low low value communication, low value activity, just because I've seen people go through lots of things that are so important. And email is like a way of communicating. It's okay. It's just like you and I, it's very important what we're doing now, but email is just like a quick, easy way to do that. We don't have to get wrapped up and twerked up about a particular email because we're all going to forget the emails. They are not the essential building blocks of life. Our habits are, though. So we need to pay more attention to, are our habits serving us? And are we using the habits that are best for our goals and for our well-being? That's what I help people to do.
Well, okay. So the habit loop, because we have a lot of times we get stuck in these habits that obviously are not serving us, right? And then we create this habit loop, and whatever is driving that behavior, it's some belief that was formed maybe years ago, right?
Yes.
So if it's easy to get stuck in a habit loop that's familiar, even though it's not serving us, and you said it's not as easy to create a new one, why can't it be as easy to create a new one? Is it just that it's unfamiliar?
Well, the brain likes familiarity, I believe, and because that's also less energy consuming for the brain to have to redefine, right? Imagine if you changed your toothbrushing habit every day. Like, we just don't do that. Maybe we go to a hotel and it's a little different, but otherwise it's pretty steady state. And that's just a good image for how we do things. And we might change things up, but essentially we make dinner at the same time. We decide, oh, we're out of groceries, we're going to go to the supermarket. There are a lot of ingrained habits that we have that we don't even think of as habits because they're automated. So a lot of things are automated, and it's just like our life privilege to be able to craft new ones. Like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start a media company. I'm going to start something with my friend Christine. It's just like, this is what life is made of. The other stuff is just like staying alive and staying nourished and fed and well slept. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. Just going through the motions, basically, in life. You brought up perfectionism when you were talking about emails and such. I tend to think of perfectionism and procrastination as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Just because I know myself, I would get caught up in that, making sure, I had every T crossed and, I dotted, et cetera, before I would send emails. And I finally got myself out of that. But because, as you said, it's like, it's not important, just send the email. Only because I started getting emails, I was like, okay, they obviously don't care, so just send it. Just get the job done.
It's not that emails can't be important, and sometimes you get a really important one, but you know what I always think? Time is more important than your email, right? And if you're spending 5 more minutes and you need to on an email, that's 5 minutes of your life. Like, just look at it that way, and that should help you to curb any rampant email behavior. And it's okay if this is something that you're struggling with or you want to work through. We all have these areas. Like, I just happen to be picking on email today, but I've got things that I do that I shouldn't be doing all the time. But I am mindful of these things, and I do have the faith that I'm working on the things that are core importance to me, like my physical health, which is a current hyper priority, and it's paying off. It really is, because I think with things like perfectionism, old habits, making things super complicated, we then just toss our bodies away. We decide, I'm going to skip breakfast. I'm going to skip the gym. I'm not going to walk outside today. And then the body just gets in that habit. And it doesn't, I think the body really enjoys being vibrant and moving and being used. I don't think we're meant for desk chairs and the internet. I think we're meant for like milking cows and things like that. So not that I've ever milked a cow, but that I think movement is core to being energetic beings, of being healthy. It's how our bodies run, electrical firings of messages, and light is created every time neurons communicate to each other. Blood moves through our body. It's all movement. It's all based on and demands movement. And once we have stagnation, that's when things go south. And I feel like that's a great metaphor for just about any other project that we're on. Let's just keep things moving. It does not have to be perfect, but movement is essential, right? Having a plan, like you said, will help. Having a goal will help you staying and moving in the right direction. And procrastination is just movement in the wrong direction. That's how I see it, right? If you're procrastinating, it means I choose to go the other way. And again, that's okay. We've all done it. But wouldn't you rather move in the right direction? Your heart really would. So,
Yeah, your heart really would. But then again, that mind gets in the way and says, oh, you can put it off. You can put it off. So, I know you have a challenge coming up, but before we get to that, is there any one or two things that you could tell people that would help them start moving away from procrastinating and start getting on track and out of that stagnation?
move towards your goals and don't be afraid because you're good enough. You're good enough because this not even a question, right? You're worthy. You're worthy at the deepest levels. You're creative at the deepest levels. You're the best person to do the goal that you chose. And so the procrastination is just a filler. It's like the styrofoam in a packing box. It'll help for a little while, but then it's garbage. So we want to get rid of the garbage. And that might lead right into the challenge. If you want me to talk about that now, I could certainly
Yeah,
do that.
well, absolutely, because I think it's having people like you have a goal, you want to move towards that goal, but then again, there's all those anxious feelings or thoughts and those limiting beliefs that kind of crop up, and it's like, look, I got to stifle those and I got to start moving. So, is that what the challenge is going to help people with? Like, let's get through that.
Absolutely. So the challenge is called Re-Energize Your Home. And I put the word energy in there on purpose because I just thought that's the core thing of what I'm teaching people is how to reclaim and find their missing energy. And so often people in midlife, we're busy and our bodies are changing and life is stressful and we have so many things we want to do. And it's all packed into this one time and space that we have. And yet we also pack in some clutter. We're also coexisting with the physical clutter. And the physical clutter I found over the years is a really quick, very expedient way to create more space for yourself, literally and figuratively. Because if you want to do that progress to that goal that you haven't reached yet and you're a little nervous about, just create more space. Like let yourself expand into that new identity. And I actually believe that taking charge of the first challenge, which is the physical clutter that may literally be standing in your way, is the best and quickest way to say, I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready to do this. And by the way, having that out of your space, literally and figuratively, will improve your focus. That is backed by research that clutter interferes with your ability to focus well. So why are we letting the clutter stay? Talk about a plateau. It's like permanent plateau in the spare room or the garage, the doom room that people say. And so for 10 rounds, this will be the 10th round of the challenge. I've helped hundreds of people, mostly women, but some men, to just say, now's the time. I'm dealing with this now. And I really think it's a very smart move to make to just take care of the clutter right away instead of delaying.
Do you ever work with hoarders?
So, I don't tend to use that term. I do think watching episodes of those shows is really kind of it's affecting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it really does affect a person to see that kind of accumulation and the stress that emanates from the room and the people who are trying to be in that room. So I would say I've had people with lots of clutter join the challenge, like a lot of clutter. But I've also seen those same people really do very, I think, brave efforts to combat that. and to really get at that. And so I'm not promising that you're going to clear everything, but I am promising that you're going to learn a technique to really start and do this well without hurting yourself and without stressing yourself out. So that's what I offer: fun, community, and the right techniques to do this without draining yourself. Because again, if the body sees you're draining yourself, you're going to resist. And my whole specialty is to just get rid of the resistance and help you do that.
So interesting. It is so freeing. I will tell you, I got rid of a huge storage unit and went down to something very small and got rid of a bunch of stuff. You brought up the garage. I'm like, oh, and now it doesn't feel that way. It's like, oh, but it really does free up a lot of the mental white space.
Yeah.
So they have the energy to do other things.
Yeah. We're affected by energy. Like we're affected by other people, that we're affected by our stuff. There's a reason. If you look at your desk right now, literally there's a story behind every single thing that you have on your desk. Some of it's accidental. Some of it's very on purpose. Some of it is like bothering you, right? And it's just like, let's leave the stuff that you want and that you love and that you need, and just have that be your environment. Then you're ready to go. It's like fueling your gas tank. It's just saying, I'm ready to go on the long trip. I've got this.
I love that, because it really is all about that energy, and you cannot create from a cluttered mind. You just can't, and you can't step into a vision when you have so many other things competing for your attention, which could just be in your physical space as well.
Yes. Yes. And people who live with clutter can tell you, right? There's the emotional layer, which is just like, society really pulls a shame game on people with clutter. And I try not to do that. I've experienced some of that myself, and it's not fun. And I'd really much rather show people, like, you could lighten things up right away in an afternoon, like easy peasy. One day we can change this.
Wow. One day. That's incredible. That is really incredible. I love this. Okay. So we are going to link that information down below in the show notes.
I can also give you a link right now to make it easier if somebody's needing it right now. It's procrastinationcoach.com/KT for Kim Thompson. So again, procrastinationcoach.com/KT, and you'll get the information to join the free challenge. We'll be together for a week, and it'll be quick, fun. You'll meet lots of people, and you'll see lots of before and after photos in the Facebook group.
And you'll declutter, start getting some more space and energy back so that you can stop procrastinating, right?
Yeah, most importantly. Yes, absolutely.
I love this. I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that information. I think, it's an important topic, because I think it's the thing that derails so many efforts and so many things that we want to do in life and we say we want to achieve, but yet we get all stuck in what you were saying, really, those habit loops that just prevent us
What I
from
learned
moving forward.
about life through these clutter challenges is that we are very, we're taught heavily how to accumulate, and we are not taught how to let go and release. And it's just this real imbalance, and clutter is just the representation of that.
Ooh, that's great, because you have to let go.
You have to let
more
go
of the
to let
you have
more
to let
in.
the good, the things that you want in. Such an important point. Okay, great. All right, so the challenge starts next week. We'll link that down below. And again, if you want the link now, it is procrastinationcoach.com/KT. Yay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Christine, for being here again and sharing all of your wisdom.
Thank you,
appreciate
Kim.
it.
Hugs.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please consider leaving a rating and hit that subscribe button. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it with them. I'll be back again next week with another episode of Shift or Get Off the Pot.